You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. Today, my guests are Martin Chagnovich, or just Martin Chag.
Also known as Chag.
Martin Chag.
Chagwire.
Chagwire.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. We also have Jordan Harbertson.
Co-hosting today.
Co-hosting.
Yeah, co-host.
You're not a...
Back to my roots.
You're
I'm
not
not
a
a
guest.
guest. I'm a co-host. No. Yeah, I'm here to support.
You don't have enough weight
Nope.
to be a guest.
Nope. I'm just going to be dead weight over here. I don't have enough clout to be a significant guest. I'm just here to support the guest.
I just watched your film, Martin, Chasing 200, the other day. And so definitely I want to talk about that.
Okay.
I want to talk about, basically getting... Is that your first 200-inch mule deer with a bow?
Yeah. First 200-inch deer at all. So
that's sick.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about that. That was a velvet archery mule deer hunt and you've shot some other giants as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that because I have an archery, selfishly, I have my own archery mule deer.
Okay.
I have a dedicated hunter tag, so I want to do my best there to pick your brain and go into this season ready to kill a giant. So we'll get into that. We're over at the Black Flag. This is not a real studio yet, but you have one underway?
Yeah, so this will become the studio. We're going to build this out. Obviously, we're going to get some shades in here, do some cool design lighting, and set this up as a permanent studio so that you, us, whoever, we've got other guys that want to use it to be able to have it as a place for people to drop in and do some podcasting.
I like it. And we are at the Black Flag building, HQ. And Jordan, real quick, before we get to Chag, Martin, what's the story real quick? You got a new company you've launched. We talked about it a little bit, but you got a minute.
We've got a new venture.
You've got 45 seconds starting now.
We'll get the
ESPN, 4-hour version.
ESPN not top 10 plays, the ESPN 1 play. This is the number 1 play. Black Flag, new venture, got a few parts to it, but one significant part that you guys have always known us for is building great products. We've got an incredible product right now, which we're mixing up. Black Flag Revenge.
I'm going to get revenged.
Yeah, dude, we're going to get revenge on this podcast. And that right there is quintessentially our best formula, best product that Casey and I have ever developed in our careers. And we developed that with some really incredible individuals who have a lot of success in the space of...
I love all this pirate theme stuff. Although the name of this revenge is Pink Plunder. And I just, for some reason... I hear it just has triple X vibes.
Yeah, dude. When Casey called it that, I was like, bro, like Pink Lemonade, it plays, right?
Right.
You say Pink Plunder, and listen,
I don't know.
Chagwire over here. You know why I call him Chagwire?
No, I don't.
He's a lady killer. Listen, guy kills big bucks.
Yeah,
it goes without saying. We'll get into that, but
all right,
Chag is. All joking aside, I always joke with him. I'm like, dude, you're like a Calvin Klein model in gear, in outdoor wear that you go out and people would probably look at you and say, how does this guy kill anything? Yet, track record be known.
Yeah.
Chag gets out after it, has been doing this for years and has had great success. He's had some failures. We all have, but he's also followed that up with some great successes. And obviously we'll get into it. One of the more recent ones, which is his deer. He had a great experience the year before when we did that film with the elk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. Like, we'll dive into all things Chag.
Hey folks, pardon the interruption, but I've got to tell you about this new Tricer RP bipod for your rifle. This thing is incredible. It's going to take the market by storm. You're going to want one. Everyone will. It's like no other bipod on the market. It's been designed to do everything in one bipod, which is generally not what we have available to us on the market today. Use the code GRITTY over at Tricer and you will save. Whether you're shooting from a prone or sitting position, this bipod adapts seamlessly to every field environment. You're going to get rock solid stability when it matters most. This bipod includes everything for $2.99. You've got the long legs, the short legs, you got spikes, you got rubber feet, Arca Swiss, Picatinny compatible, plus a swivel stud to Picatinny adapter, giving you unmatched flexibility for any hunting scenario. Bottom line, this is the last bipod you'll ever need. Use the code GRITTY over at Tricer.com. You'll get a discount, and you'll get the last bipod you'll ever need. All right, let's get back to the show. I saw a very cool film years ago. I think it might have been the first time I saw Martin, and it was a late season elk hunt.
Okay, yeah.
In the snow, and you got real close, archery.
Yep.
And you got real close to a really nice bull. And I'm like, where's he hunting? Where can you hunt elk with a bow like this in these conditions and of that caliber? And yeah, it was a really cool film.
Yeah, that was a while ago, but that video did get some decent traction.
Yeah. Inspired me. I was here actually, and I was talking to Adam Greentree about it. He was here, and he's like,
was that when Adam was doing his Colorado? When he was over,
I think so.
When Kimmy was here with him and they were in Colorado?
Yeah. Yep. And so a number of years ago,
yeah,
but it had come across his radar too, and he was like, I got to do that hunt.
It's a fun hunt. I mean, there's not a lot of elk. There's a ton of people. It's a OTC, so there's no cap on how many hunters can be out there, and it's all dependent on snow. So if you don't have snow, it can be really hard. But then if you get a lot of snow, it's also hard.
Yeah,
because
true.
It's cold and rough conditions.
I saw a film just the other day, Big Time Crit put out, where he killed a bull late in the year as well.
Yeah.
Similar, or was that a draw?
That was a limited entry, late archery hunt. But yeah, you're same style of hunting and whatnot, but yeah, different unit, but
probably limited entry, better.
Oh yeah, there's
on your
way
hunt,
better elk there.
When you did the OTC thing, what are the odds you even find a bull in that? Like, how many bulls are there that you're dealing with?
You can find bulls. I'd say there's like 10 to. When I say bulls, I'm talking 6-point mature bulls. Mm-hmm. There's a good amount of raghorns, but you're looking at maybe 10 6-point bulls in a pretty big mountain range, and you've got unlimited hunters trying to hunt those same bulls. So there's a lot of dead space where there's no elk at all, because elk are herd animals. So you get 5 bulls running around together. There might not be 5 elk for the next 5 miles, because they're all just right there
together.
But if you can stay on them, that's kind of the thing. Just stay on them and bounce around with the other hunters and just keep putting pressure, working angles, and eventually, hopefully, get a shot. This year, I didn't get one shot. I hunted for 3 months up there. Passed on some good bulls, like 5x6s. Had a couple really big bulls picked out that I kind of just stuck to them and didn't get a shot. Got in bow range a few times, but yeah, it's a tough hunt.
That's really neat hunt, though.
Yeah, it's fun. It's unique, and a lot of other hunts are wrapped up at that time of the year, so it's something else to do.
I helped Kendall pack some elk off of that mountain in late season deep snow, and I saw some bulls up in there. But you're talking, it was above my knees.
Yeah,
it's not
getting
like
around was like tough.
If you have
but there were elk there.
If you have a good snowfall, like Chag's saying, like, it's kind of incredible when you think about what you have to endure, go through, or persevere in order to even create an opportunity like that. Like the notion that, I think I've been on some late season rifle hunts. So again, I'm not going to take it away from you rifle hunters, because I'm one, but at the end of the day, like, creating the proximity and the intimacy that you have to in that environment with those conditions, it's not ideal. It's just not ideal for a bow hunter. So to come close to an encounter, which you've experienced, and to have any amount of success, I don't even care if it's a raghorn or a mature 6, is a feat in itself and a respectable, kill.
Absolutely.
Because it's not easy hunting up there, because when you're in like what you experienced, that knee deep or even waist high snow, right? Because you'll take some snowshoes in, right?
Oh yeah,
and you'll be tracking on snowshoes and trying to get
That just seems like a fun hunt, though.
It's an adventure.
Yeah,
it's I've done it once. I've only done it ever once. And
skis. Done it with skis.
You can do that. Yeah, there's a few spots.
We gotta get him on. He doesn't ski or snowboard.
Yeah.
That's the problem. As I told him, like, Chag, like, we got to get you on a
too busy
snowboard.
hunting.
Yeah. And he's like, bro, I don't got time for that. I'm hunting, bro.
Yeah. Last time I snowboarded was the first time. I was in high school, and it was just tumble after tumble. I could not stay up. So
I told him, I'm like, I'm going to get you on the resort. He's like, no, you're not. We're not doing that, dude. I'm not putting my calories into that.
Yeah, no, but going back to that hunt, it's tough, man. Like killing things with a rifle is, it's hard. But it's mostly finding the animal.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard part. With a bow, it's like the finding, plus then you have to shave off 1,000 yards and get somehow to 50 yards from this critter. And the snow's usually crunchy. Everything, all the branches are, they have no leaves, so it's all crunchy.
Every element is against you at this point. Because you're probably right. Would you say, like in some of your experiences in closing that gap, there's no leaves, right? We've got snow and we've got gaps between everything that you're going through to get there. It's loud, it's noisy, you're exposed. And then wind conditions most of the time aren't ideal because it's very much, so there's so many things playing against you in that situation.
Yeah. The bull I killed 2 years ago was on the late hunt. That's when we did that movie night.
Yep.
And to get to him, I had to go through a north slope. I was trying to cut him off in a saddle as he was feeding down in this basin. And he's going to come up and cross this saddle to bed on a north slope. And so I knew I had to cut him off in this saddle, and I had to push through hip deep snow for about 500 yards, being conservative, just running as fast as I could, but also being quiet.
Yeah.
Because everything echoes in the snow. And so, I was able to cut him off, and he walked into 50 yards. Started sparring with another bull, and I shot him. But like it can be crazy conditions.
It's a legit hunt.
Yeah.
The you know why it does that in the cold? The sound carries.
Is it because the air density? Because it can carry it greater because there's not as much in the air that it's interacting with, right? Now I'm no science. I said that in a very scientific manner, which I don't understand.
Because sometimes it'll be like 28 degrees. And snow, and it's kind of quiet. Your sound doesn't carry. But when it's 0 degrees, then it starts to carry. It has less to do with the snow and way more to do with the temperature.
Gotcha.
When you guys were on your more recent wolf hunt, the Blood in the Snow one that you released, what were the conditions that you guys were in up there in terms of like degree, weather? I mean, you guys were in
5 degrees, 10 degrees.
Wow. Yeah. Really cold.
And then sometimes in the afternoon, it would get up in the sun, it would actually get to 32 or 33 degrees on some.
Like in midday.
Yeah.
Before you start getting into the evening.
And then it would refreeze again. You could hear the lakes sort of pop from unthawing.
Yeah.
And then you could hear them refreeze. And at night they just and everything just starts making all this noises that just ice is just moving in one big block. It was, hunting in the cold is it's a manly endeavor. It's a whole thing all on its own, but it does make it, I don't know, bow hunting in the deep, deep snow has an allure. I've been trying to get a goat tag, and I kind of want to do it in that deep snow period where, it's just gnarly, but most of the tags are actually being offered in a much like August, September,
I think the goat hunt that I apply for in Utah is August, September. I want to say it's early.
Some of those areas though, if you don't hunt then, you're not going to, because when the snow gets here, it's impassable.
Yeah. You can't maneuver the cliffs, and you wouldn't be able to hunt them with a bow for sure. But
one of the things that I think too, like, so those, if you're just talking about like late season in general, like Eric and I had that hunt. We were in Colorado a couple of years back, and there wasn't much snowfall in Colorado when we shot those 3 bulls all at the same time with Matt. And it was like, I remember when we shot them and we got down there, I was like, man, this is gonna be so great. Like, we're gonna cut these 3 bulls up. After obviously you're looking at 3 different bulls all within less than 100 yards of each other, and you're just like in the moment, you're like, this is so great. And then the 3 of us are looking at where we've hiked in, where we're at, and at the current time, it was sunny and there was no snow. Right. And then all of a sudden, we are like, okay, we're going to get all this taken care of, addressed. We're going to hang it in a meat tree, and then we're going to go back to town and get prepared how we're going to get this out. And then when we got back to town, we found out that a massive blizzard was coming in. And it's like conditions wise, right? When we're talking about snow, changed everything, because now we're like, crap, this is going to take not a day, this is going to take days. if it's all on our backs. And so we had to like say, okay, we actually got to find like some outfitters or some horses. And it was like when we got back into the spot where we shot him, it was at that time over one night, it had dropped like almost 24 inches. It was insane. And so it was like, I was actually grateful in that circumstance that I got the nice weather, got the animal, but then it was like, we got to get him out in the tough stuff, which I don't get any credit for that because the mules and the horses did their job.
Yeah, that sounds situation. Like it worked out perfect then.
It ended up working out. I mean, it was a massive, like Eric could tell you, like what we had to go through and getting the right outfitters and the wrong guy coming and finally meeting these guys on the trailhead that had horses from Montana. I mean, it's this whole crazy experience, but the snow changes everything circumstantially in terms of that. And like you've experienced too, you've done a lot of that late season hunting on mule deer too, like Wasatch Front with a bow. Yeah. It's the same thing. Like elk is arguably very difficult, right? Just in terms of the size of the herd, the amount of hunters that are hunting them. And equally to that is like mule deer. And I spent more of my time doing those late season archery hunts on the Wasatch Front. And when you have a good starting winter, like we've had in past years, where all that snow is on the front, chasing mule deer in more of a rutting experience is a wild experience in itself. Yeah. Now, when you got your guy, before we get into that, I actually just wanted to pull back because I want people to get to know like Chag a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. And me and Chag go way back. And so this is, I'm just going to kind of like tee this up and then I kind of want to turn it over back to you. Chag and I go all the way back to literally year 1, year 2 of Mountain Ops. And I'm introduced to Chag through Eric Chesser. And I still remember the day that Eric walked in the office and he's like, hey, I got a buddy who's coming to the office today. His name's Martin Chagnovich. And I was like, is he Russian? And he's like, no, dude, when you see him, you're going to be like, this is one good looking dude. And I was like, I remember when Chag showed up, Chag was like, dressed proper. I mean, pretty ripped guy, just like the two of you, takes good care of himself, fit. And Chag, how old were you at that point? That was
got to be like 20, or I'd be 19.
Yeah. So still a teenager.
Yeah. Young.
Right. In my office, still young, but as ambitious as hell. And he comes in and Eric kind of tees it up and says, hey, I'm kind of working with this guy, coaching this guy. He wants to build a YouTube channel, build a following, and build his own namesake in the space. Anyways, I think you should work with him like you're working with us, Hush, Brian, everybody. Yeah. And this is where, I failed Chag because at that time, even as a 19-year-old boy with so much ambition, so much hustle and heart and wanting to build what he wanted to at that time, I was focused on too many things at once. And I didn't give him enough time and enough opportunity to be a good part of the company at that time. And so he went off respectfully and promoted somebody else. But
let me interject here. That's pretty common with Jordan, actually. And
because I'm chasing squirrels.
And the thing with that is that I've learned over the years is, and people have their strengths and their weaknesses, and often their strength is their weakness. So when Jordan Jordan will get distracted by whatever. I look at Jordan as someone who has things to get done, and you can either keep up or get left behind. Yeah. That's kind of the Jordan Harbertson way. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I'll keep up. I'll go do my own thing over here, and then I'll circle back and I'll do this, and we'll get this done, and we'll do this together. And then when Jordan's off, like, you need to have a really strong sense of of independence when you're working with Jordan.
Yeah.
Because that's how it turns out the best. And I'm built that way. I also am a lot like that. So I am very lenient with Jordan. Yeah. Because I do the same thing to other people.
Keep having that mentality.
You either keep up with me, or I'm just going to leave you behind.
And it's
not personal.
It's not personal.
And that's kind of how I am too. And that's why I actually left, because I was like, all right, well, I got offers that actually are talking to me that sound better. Hindsight, they weren't better. I was, you find out the hard way, kind of. But so that's kind of how I am too, and that's what led me to leave and not, pursue that with Mountain Ops, but circled back in the end. And
and the other thing that Eric said at the time, as this is all starting, he's 19 years old. He's sitting in my office, the old office down at Mountain Ops, and he said it. He said, this kid is going to create, a name, a channel, and he's going to do the work. And Eric will always tell everyone, like, you got to commit 5 years to it, minimum. Like you can't expect that anyone's going to watch you, care about you, like you, comment. You have to keep producing. But then if you stay the course and you create a sense of, and if you're interesting, you have an interesting story, you'll break through that mold and you'll actually create for yourself a following that adores you and your story and who you are. And I mean, respectfully, this is where I want to just turn it over to you and you to kind of get into your story. This is just how me and him are connected, but he has a story beyond, when him and I first met. But I have a lot of respect for Chag because he did it as a 19-year-old kid. He went from that to where he sits with us now on this podcast, and all the things that he's struggled through and he's failed at and won at. He's here and he's done it on his way, respectfully, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, I appreciate that, man. It means a lot. Yeah, and it really just all stemmed from a deep passion for hunting. I just want to hunt every day. Like, I don't care about anything else. Money, fame, followers, whatever. I just want to do whatever allows me to hunt, shed hunt, and be outdoors the most. And so whatever angle I got to work to achieve that, that's what I was doing. And, it's
how old are you now?
29. So that was about
10 years
ago.
Yep.
Yeah, that's about
a decade.
I started.
So, about the same time you started.
10 years ago.
So what I tell people now, I use both of you as an example, and everyone that's maybe will listen to this podcast. All these guys now are coming because they're inspired by both of you, that they're wanting to start their opportunity. And I'm not going to say that anybody can't have the same opportunities you two have had because of the sacrifices the two of you have made to build a name and a reputation and a business, or like you said, to be able to live the lifestyle you want. It's a lot harder today in the next decade to create that based on, the environment that we're in now and social media and all the changes that have happened than it was 10 years ago. It doesn't discount what's happened, but the thing is now everyone, I had a conversation with a gentleman, I won't say his name or put it out there, but we had a call yesterday, and he was somebody who met with me about a week after you, and he turned me down at Mountain Ops. And he talks about Brian, and he's like, I watched what Brian's done, the success that he's created, and all these guys that were around Mountain Ops and you guys, and I regrettably regret my decision to turn you down those years ago, because here I am 10 years later, and even though I've done what I've done in YouTube and in where we are, I haven't, it's a hobby. It's not a business yet, but we're now, I think, at a point to make it a business. But I really wish 10 years ago, I would have done what some of these guys that did what they did.
Martin, what you said a minute ago, you said you just want to get out and hunt, shed hunt, be outdoors, chase that next 200-inch buck plus. Well, that makes, this isn't a job for you. It's a passion. It's fulfilling. Yeah. That's how I feel too. So it's really hard for my peers that are kind of in the same space as I am to keep up, because I don't know that they have that same motivation. There's lots of, and I'm not motivated by just one thing. There's a whole host of things that motivate me, but a big part of it is I would do it even if I wasn't really paid anything. If I didn't really make any money at it, I'd still be trying to spend as much time here as I can.
Absolutely.
So I think it takes that kind of mindset to build something like that people value in terms of a content creator type career, which is essentially what we're doing. We're creating content, we're sharing knowledge, information, we're inspiring, we're trying to go on our own adventures and then put them in the living rooms of other people so they can glean whatever out of it, be it a laugh, excitement, knowledge, motivation. All of those things get wrapped up into what it is that I'm trying to impart to people through what I do.
You've said this, and you just said this, which is what everyone should take away from this in terms of this section, which is both of you have told me multiple times, I'm doing this not for the money. I'm not trying to make like some crazy amount of money. I want to make enough to support my essential needs and to fulfill and live my passion, which is to help one be outdoors.
Well, I would say this, because I definitely am motivated. I'm not motivated by money. I'm motivated by beating other people.
Yeah, you're competitive in nature.
So it's not that I want to make more money so I can have more money to spend. It's I want to make more money so I can beat so-and-so over there who I have an axe to grind. It's totally not like
it's a chip on your shoulder.
It's because, and I also want to be good at lots of things, not just hunting or not just making a film, but I also want to be proficient enough at making a wise business decision and in growing, in empowering myself and my family. So there's two things can be true at the same time. I can want to make money, but also love to hunt and also want to make a difference in the world that I think is positive. I can do all those things. They can all be motivations.
Right.
Yeah.
But to what degree, definitely most folks wouldn't want to do what I've done the first 7 years of what I did because they wouldn't have wanted to put in the hours and sacrifice all the things that they could have been doing instead.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have wanted to live below their means for a long time, trying to make it all work.
Which almost is a guarantee you have to do that unless you come from family money or something.
Yeah, you got a silver spoon.
I mean, you look at Randy Newberg, he owned his own accounting practice and all this kind of stuff. He was losing money most of the years that he was running his whole media company and all the things that he's accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that's true. I think that can be true for a long time. But if you stick with it long enough, you become kind of like what Dave Ramsey or Gary Vee will say, you're in that top 5 or 10% of your industry. And when that happens, you now can all of a sudden, maybe you're rolling into wealth down the road. Yep. I remember talking to Randy at his like 10 or 12 year mark. Then you add another 10 years. It's like, oh, now he is in a fairly good financial place.
Yeah.
But it took a long time to create it. Most people won't get past that first decade.
Yep. I always figure like you can fake it for 5 years and then people, things catch up, whether it's having kids and family obligations.
Yep.
You can't live that below your means, anymore because you have to take care of all these people. And then you've got just passion. You don't have the passion to cut it. You can't get
their
through
health
the
goes down, and so they just can't pull an all-nighter anymore. Or they just don't have the will or the drive.
Or you run out of savings account. Like when I left Hush to start my own career in this or my own path, I left a guaranteed income and January 1st hit and like I had no income coming in. I was starting from scratch. So I had to live off savings for the first year and wasn't getting enough sponsorships. I was eating through my savings and that wasn't working out yet. But I knew I couldn't sacrifice my content during the day. I still needed to be full-time during the day. So I went back to FedEx and I got a 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. night shift. And I moved their 100-pound or heavier boxes all night.
Just how he built these arms.
From midnight to 8 a.m. for a full year, I did that so that I wouldn't sacrifice my mountain time. I could still go out and get content, try to get some sponsorships, partnerships. And after a year, I was able to weed that out and then go full-time from there. And people don't see that and know that really.
They just see the tip of the iceberg.
Right? They see a post on Instagram and think, that's all there is to it. But there's a lot that goes into it and learning how to network, sell yourself. We were kind of talking about that before the podcast and presenting yourself. Like there's a lot that goes into making it work.
I've had to sell both of you though. My friends, I'm one of the best salesmen for my friends.
Oh, for sure.
And I do remember, this takes nothing away from the two of you, but I still remember like when you called me and you're like, dude, we actually went to that Mexican restaurant that's no longer in business.
Oh, yeah.
That was in North Salt Lake, and we sat down and we talked, and you're like, here's my life decision right now. I'm considering leaving Hush and going out on my own. I feel like this is the best time to do it. And, I understand that I'm leaving an opportunity with a sizable, audience, and, they've kind of given me a platform within their platform. But I think for myself, he expressed himself in a way where he's like, I want to not only prove to myself, but I want to do this. This is what I've always wanted to do, back from when I first met you to today. And so he did that. And then I remember when I called you and, I remember the first call I made was I actually called Bryce Bishop Peaks, and Bryce was like, Jordan, we need some guys. We're early. We need some help. And I was like, I can tell you one guy right now that I know will work every day for you. We'll create content. We'll do it authentically. If he loves your product and actually wants to use it, I think he could be a great asset for you. And so I remember that was actually one of the first ones that took a flyer on you, truly, when you went out on your own, was Bryce Bishop and Peaks.
Yep. They were the OGs, like my first partners, and the best ones I've had since, pretty much, too. Yep. Like, I love those guys.
Hey, if you like our show and you want to support us, head over to Peaks Equipment and check out what they have. Use the code GRIDDY over there and you will save. They've got the trekking poles. They've got their sleeping bag that they just dropped. Peaks has a teepee. They have gaiters. They have a headlamp. All premium products for the outdoorsman. Head over there. Use the code GRIDDY. That's peaksequipment.com. Now let's get back to the show. Yeah, that Peaks group, by the way, is just family.
They're good people.
There is something, Bryce has created a group of men that support each other, women too, but just as community of where we all have really grown and benefited from that relationship. And the products continue to excel as well. So it's really fun to be part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, and you look at culturally, like what Bryce has done there with Peaks, and you've attracted who you are, right? And so Bryce has surrounded himself with individuals like yourself. From influencers, ambassadors, promoters, crusaders, to the people directly in the business, like guys like David Brinker, who I freaking love, Ryan Bassham, Jeff Helm. He's got
these are universal.
Corey, like so many personalities in there that when you talk to them, the way you just talked is exactly how they all talk when I talk to them. Like, how things are going, we'll catch up, and Dave's like, things are great, doing this. And it was interesting because when I first came onto Peaks, right when the conceptual idea of, like, I was sitting down with Bryce and I was coaching him and I was saying, listen, you're sissy sticks right now. Yeah. And we need to be something more and greater than sissy sticks. And so I
hated that name.
Yeah.
Go from grit to sissy.
Yeah. I'm just like I'm gritty using sissy sticks. And I remember having that long conversation with Bryce and talking to him about it and just saying, hey, my recommendation would be, let's come up with a new name. And so I submitted to him a new name for the company. I said, let's call the company Peaks.
Yep.
Let's do it with an X. And, I created the new logo, icon, brand, and everything for him and what was going to be his new brand refresh and the new direction that the company was going to be heading in.
Yep.
And all you guys that were going to start getting involved with that. And one thing that I never told people about that logo and design that I came up for Peaks was, obviously the P itself is the peak, right? It actually is a P, and it's the top of the actual mountain, and it's kind of representative of like peaks. But what's actually interesting is when I came up with the idea of the X, because I'm a pirate, the X on the end is actually indicative of the pursuit that one person goes through. The P at the beginning of the company's name goes through to reach their destination or to reach the X, right? That is the crescendo or this peak experience that you have, or as Peaks is now saying, thriving on the mountain and having those experiences. And what is so cool, just like the two of you in your own personal lives and businesses, and to see brands and businesses who align with the right people, is to see the success of that company that it's having in the industry against all other competing companies and brands. What I believe is the product is there. It's fascinating. It's fantastic. And you guys are continuing to innovate, but it's the people behind the brand. It always is. And it will always be. I will tell people this till the day I die. A brand is nothing more than a mark or a mission, but the mission cannot be accomplished without its people. And he's done such a great job putting the right people around him and having the right people promoting and sharing that vision.
And we've talked about this, he and I feel like, without getting too, I feel like in so many ways, when you look back at your life, and the twists and turns of it and how things come to be, it just felt like, Bryce is one of those people I was meant to meet. His wife passed away. It's been about a year. And, there's that whole trial we all went through together to a degree. And now, and it changes a person. And it changed him in a deeper way. Like, he's just not motivated by money. He's not motivated by clout he doesn't care if he's in the front of the camera or not. In fact, he hates it.
Oh, he's got a great voiceover though.
Yeah.
He's one of the best voiceovers.
The thing that he cares about is supporting and mentoring good men, and bringing that. He empowers all of us that are associated with the brand to do what we do. Which brings me to a question for you, Martin. I feel, and I've mentioned this maybe once before, that when I first came into the industry, I wasn't 19. Okay. I was more like 39. So I was a lot older and I'd made a lot of mistakes and stuff. 19 is young. Wow. And, but I came in but I was a very trusting, I would say not totally naive, but there was some naivety there. Came in and I was very accepting and open to everybody that I could come across. Wanted to have everybody on my show, promote them and get to know everyone in the industry. I kind of went into it with this sort of idea that everybody was a great person and that the industry was just a great industry. But that was naive because every place you go, there's good people, there's bad people.
Yeah.
So when I first came in, I feel like Trump when he first became president the first term.
This is his analogy. Let's go.
Let's see where this
Comeback
goes.
kid.
He first goes in and, he rode with the establishment. Like he kind of kept his cabinet people he knew. Pence was, and rhino type Republican, safe, everybody, all that stuff. And basically he got backstabbed, lied about, and used and spit out and disrespected. Then he's he's out for a while and he comes back this next term and he's got this Pete Hegseth and Tulsi and RFKJ and this whole coalition.
Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and Dana White, like all these heavy hitters in their respective industries.
Heavy hitters, people with, I'd say, arguably the greatest levels of influence, all teaming together and all moving forward. You have Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, now the FBI, and you're just sitting here going, now he's back, and this time he didn't make the same mistake he did when he first entered. Now he goes in, he keeps that circle tight. He knows who to put on his team and who to keep off his team. For me, I went through this sort of space as you grow in any industry, I think, especially I was always a trusting person and I'm extroverted, I'm pretty easygoing and very eager to meet people, shake hands, and spend time. But after how the first few years went, I withdrew a lot. And then as I've come I feel re-entering the industry more fully in terms of, just being more engaged, because I kind of went off by myself for quite a while in my little corner.
You were a little nomad, just kind of doing your thing.
Worked on my things.
Yep. Worked on yourself, worked on you and your business.
And that was great. But as I've come back, I feel like I've surrounded myself with partners and people that I know have my back all the time.
Right.
And it's a whole different experience than it was before. Did you go through a phase like that? I mean,
yeah, I'd say so. Like, not necessarily detaching from everything, getting and going out. I've always been a loner. Like, even in high school, I didn't go out and party, hang out with people. I had a couple close friends. I liked going hunting. Most of my friends didn't hunt. College, same thing. So I've always been happy, and I feel like I do the best when I'm alone.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say I changed a ton where I had to retract, but you definitely go through that. And sometimes the only way to learn, is through trial and error and
getting burned
a few times. And I've definitely had that happen, I'd say, but nothing major,
Yeah.
I feel like my parents did a good job about bringing me up and being a judge of character.
Yeah.
And whatnot. And I've been blessed to kind of right off the bat start with Eric, get introduced to you, who then introduces me to Bryce. And so I've been blessed to be in a great circle from the start. there hasn't been too many bad seeds, really.
That's not the circle.
You know what's really benefited him? Truly, your circumstances and situation is similar to mine, and without getting into too much detail, like that naivety that one has or experiences in anything in life before it ultimately at one critical point in life will change, because something will happen, whether it's a betrayal or some kind of significant situation that maybe, there is a change of a version of who you were that you will never be again. And it's not a bad thing. I think you said it well, like it's adversity or trial that one must experience or go through. Is trial and error. Oh. And what I think has been good in his circumstances, just based on who he has in his circle, is a lot of the people that he has in his circle, to be completely honest with you, have experienced what you've experienced. Mm-hmm. And so wouldn't you say that like a lot of the people that are in your circle are giving you that counsel, that advice, that constructive criticism, say, beware of these bad actors, beware of these things, and this is who you should work with. And you're kind of getting you're like, dude, whether I have to find this out on my own and experience it for myself, I have a good circle of friends around me that are helping me to help make good decisions in my life and where I'm going. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a cool thing about social media too, is like you kind of can get an in-depth look of people. Well, they always, Instagram's a little different than real life, but you can kind of tell who somebody is, and it allows you to network with like-minded people a lot easier than, back in the day, I would say 10, 15 years ago. So that also is a good tool just to connect with people. And then, you could see mutual followers, like someone's following Brian, someone's following you. They're probably on the same wavelength. Wavelength that I am. So yeah, that's for sure.
This last film you did, filming solo, an archery hunt, especially, like, it's so hard. It is so hard, not only just to film it and to have that commitment, and you get the shot on film, which is also, it's impressive, because I've done it. I've done a lot. I don't know if I've ever captured an archery solo kill yet. Maybe. Admittedly, I haven't done. Well, let's see that rosewood buck that you kind of self-filmed yourself back in Oregon. If it was from a tree, if it's from a tree stand, then yes, I've done it. But on the ground. Yeah, I was going to say ground and pound, spot stock. I don't know that I've accomplished that yet. Yeah, I don't think I have. I don't know. Maybe on a pig or something, but not like a legit, It's tough, man. The camera never helps you. That's for sure. No. That's what I tell people. It's another person that can't carry itself, right? And you're having to and the whole close the gap, move him up. You're risking so much the whole time you're trying to set up the camera. You could have just shot the deer. And so much is in the bubble of archery range. So much can go wrong in that moment, and now you're dinking around with getting the camera dialed in. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that happens, and the same is true though if you have a cameraman over your shoulder as well, because I learned the hard way when Casey and Jordan hired cameramen to go on a couple of hunts with me to film archery. They didn't know how to hunt, and so it's not all their fault, but they hadn't been inside bow range on an animal before and had no idea what it takes. Mm-hmm. And you can't just, they have no idea how, having never spent time hunting or inside the bubble, your breathing, the slight movements, they've never had to lock it down. No. And that can make or break the hunt like that, And you only get so many times in that bubble, right? Especially on a mature animal too. They don't let you get in close more than once usually. Yeah. And that's, I like hunting solo because of that. But the problem is then your film you sacrifice a little bit of your film. This is what I was going to say about that. It's not only is it difficult to capture it and to actually do the thing. Now take that one-dimensional film basically and make that content and make it into a watchable film. That's another level of skill, because self-filming is not as dynamic as having a dude over your shoulder filming all these shots in the moment like they're a fly on your shoulder. Right. it produces a more intimate conversation and kind of dialogue with the viewer, because there is no one but you and the viewer on the mountain together the whole time.
Yeah.
So you're kind of bringing them along as if, more intimately than you would if you maybe had a cameraman just following you around and wasn't necessarily capturing what you were thinking.
Yeah.
So you do get another dynamic that makes solo hunts and solo filmed hunts really interesting to me. But it is harder to make it into a cinematic masterpiece.
Right.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's the tough part I've found, like getting content for sponsors and product shots. It's really hard on your own because you're setting up a self timer, looking like a goofball, like running back and forth on the mountain. But yeah, like, so if you have a cameraman, you can accomplish all that and provide them with that content. And then you can get all those cool shots where like maybe there's a pan over a bush and gets you walking by. You can't get that when you're on your own.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just, that's the trade-off. You either hunt on your own and do the best you can, or you get a cameraman and just have to worry about hunting.
Well, that was the other thing that I struggled with was I still can't afford a cameraman. I mean, I'm pretty far into it. And, Brad is my only employee partner in this, in what we do. And that took years to be able to get to that point where I could bring someone on.
Yeah.
But even now, I can't afford to bring Brad on a lot of stuff I do. I still do most of the filming. If I'm going to go hunt and it's Stealthy and I'm going to go out and I'm going to be the cameraman. And that means I'm going to film me best I can, and I'm going to film Ryan. He'll end up on the film a lot more than me because of the nature of being the camera guy.
Yeah, you're working the camera.
And but I can get a much better production out of that. And that's one of the reasons why for a long span there I did more rifle hunts, because I can self-film a rifle hunt fairly effectively.
Right.
And I'm still chasing adventure more than I am anything else. And so a lot of the hunts that we chose to go on were difficult enough. I mean, they were difficulty level 10 out of 10 with a rifle. I didn't need to add a bow to make it harder. Then you go on some hunts where it's like, dude, if you don't bring a bow, it's kind of a joke. It's way too easy. You need the bow to make it be something, somewhat of a challenge. Then there's the pinnacle, where it's hard enough with the rifle and you're still going to try to do it with a bow. Now you're entering that pinnacle type of experience.
If you guys remember, this was like a decade ago. But like some of the, two of the guys that were most revered and respected in the space because of doing just that solo hunting was Tim Burnett and Remy Warren.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember watching their show and watching their content. And, I remember when Tim came onto Mountain Ops and he was explaining like his process and how he did it and how it's done. And I was just like, why? Like, it's so much funner to hunt with your friends. And he's like, no, I know, Jordan, I understand that. But like, this in itself is a great feat for me. The challenge itself to create a compelling story. If you remember some of those films that he put together, right, when he was producing that show, like, and he's still doing some of that today, like, it was really engaging content because of the difficulty and how hard it is to do what you did and to accomplish it. And not just that, but what you also said, which is to also have a shot and a chance inside the bubble on a very mature animal that does not make many mistakes and does not let others get too many strikes before they're struck out on ever having a chance on that buck again or bull.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through like just the experience of that moment and as kind of everything that?
Yeah, I'm gonna say I wanted, and I know you and guys like you and Ryan Lampers and stuff, you're understated by like a lot, and so. When you killed that buck, there's no hooping and hollering. There's no like fist pumping.
Even kill.
There's just like, well, I got the buck and now I'm going to take him off.
There was no Fred.
Like,
there was no Fred Eichler moment.
I need a little something, Chag. I need a little like,
yeah,
a crack of the smile, maybe. Like,
I don't know. I look at it like a mountain lion kills a deer, is he doing anything, or is it just business as usual?
Yeah,
Hey, with Chag, it's all business.
I couldn't tell if he was excited or not. Like I could feel like there's a sense of accomplishment that came through.
Hey, listen, you got two options. You're either going to be overly excited, right? Or you're going to break out in tears and cry.
Yeah, no, I'm looking for a little more.
And then it's like,
something.
where's the emotional divide between those two contrasts? And what would you say to that in terms of like your mindset, your mentality? Once that event has happened and the experience is right there, where's your headspace at? How are you feeling in that moment? Obviously, from an expression standpoint,
well, honestly,
lackluster. And Brian
Lampers does the same thing. He just like sits there and, well, yeah. And you're just like,
no, I mean,
he's actually, I've learned, I got to turn the camera on about 40 minutes later.
Yeah.
That's when he starts rambling and he starts talking a whole bunch and he starts laughing and smiling and stuff, but it's very delayed. And if I don't run the camera, then people don't actually capture that. Like Hillary would say, I never see this part of Ryan. He's never this emotional. But it's later.
Yeah.
It's delayed.
Yeah. I mean, being by yourself too, it's kind of like there's no energy to bounce off of. Like I've helped my buddy kill a nice bull a couple of years ago, and that was energetic, but I wasn't the one shooting. I was just like helping him get him in position and watching it go down. So like,
was that the one with Connor?
Yeah. And then he's like, he gets way excited. He's the polar opposite of me when it comes to that. Like if he finds a shed, the whole canyon's lit up. Like he's yelling and stuff. And I'll just like pick it up, and I won't even hit the radio for a couple minutes, and then I'll be like, oh, I found a shed. But so that in that situation, I was bouncing energy off him, and like I got pretty excited. But yeah, by myself, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like me. I'm a pretty introverted guy. I stick to myself. I'm always pretty quiet. Later it hit me. Honestly, when I walked in from Curtis at Monarch Taxidermy and picked up the deer, that's when it hit me. And I saw the deer sitting there again, come back to life pretty much, and that's when like I almost got a little teary-eyed just because it just brought me back to August when I saw that mount sitting there. But since then, it's just kind of been like, you just keep moving on. Like when I kill that buck, my mind just starts going to, okay, I've got to like set him up. I know I got to get some pictures and video. That's just what we do. So like, I got to get that. And then I got to start cleaning them up. Like that's just where my mind goes. Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to celebrate and hang out for an hour and like soak it in.
Yeah. But it makes sense too when you're alone like that. There's that you're processing.
Yeah.
But there's nobody there to like,
Well, talk about that, because this is actually really interesting, because like you said earlier, you really balance out Lampers. Like if Lampers was self-filming and solo filming, right, as a natural introvert that he is, you guys yin and yang each other because you are energetic and you bring those opportunities out with him by that energy. When you're by yourself, maybe if I could ask you this, what have you felt for like all the people that are listening to this who are introverted, maybe as you are, to be as an introvert? One of the scariest things for introverts and extroverts, but relatively, is to be vulnerable and to kind of become extra and kind of have and create some sense of a social experience for people when that drains you and naturally, because you're like, I'm not necessarily a energetic. Like the difference, I always describe this to people, the difference between an introvert and an extrovert is one spends coins and one collects coins. So like me and Brian collect our coins when we enter a room from all that we interact with, and that's how we get energy. And introverts, they spend a certain amount of coins. They have 5 coins. They'll have 5 conversations. They're like, I'm spent. I'm done, and I'd like to go to reverse. How has building, who you are today and what you're doing been something that you've been able to do being an introvert?
Before you do that, I would say this, and I've said this to my advice to people who are going to create content or be public facing in any way. If you're the guy that cries, then cry. If you're the guy that hoots and hollers and does the Fred Eichler, like do that. If you're the guy that's really stoic, be stoic. Just be who you are. Authenticity is is more important now than it ever has been in a public person. And people feel it if it's real or if it's fake, if it's contrived or if it's real. All you have to do is just be the one you are. So don't sit there and go, well, what would look good for the camera or what would make sense? Be authentic. That said, don't be overly stoic, right? If you're not that person. Don't be overly emotional, like if you're not emotional. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just
be genuine.
Be the guy that you are, and let the chips fall.
That's what I mean in terms of the vulnerability.
Authenticity is king.
Yes.
And so when I'm watching your films, this latest Chasing 200, you can tell in that film that this is a lifelong passion of yours. And the challenge, you don't just want to kill a 200-inch buck. You want to kill it in this area, in a place where you grew up. You want to kill it on terms you've set. You want to do it where other people are in your way and still, pull it off. Like, there's all these things that you're chasing and that you're communicating clearly to the viewer that puts what you've done into a lens where they can understand it and it's authentic. There's nothing contrived or fake or weird about it. And that right there has more value, I think, than I've had this conversation with Brad where he's like, well, I'm not you and I'm not Ryan and I'm a redneck and I'm kind of quiet and I don't always feel I'm the most articulate. And I'm like, Brad, just be you.
Yep.
That's all people are looking for. And just believe that being you is enough.
Yep. And you might not have as big a fan base. Like there might be more extroverts that end up liking you. Like, just like there's more people that follow Cam Hanes than you, more people that follow you than me. Like, everybody has their audience that they attract, but there's an audience for everybody if you just are yourself. And those are the people that end up supporting you along the way, buying your stuff.
That's wise.
Too. And
I've known that for a long time. Like, there are people who are annoyed by me. I just set them off. I bug them.
Yeah.
And I've shared the podcast with other people that have come along with me, and I've been on podcasts with guys that are totally opposite of me. I didn't have to be them, and they didn't have to be me. That was something I learned a long time ago. I'm going to attract a certain audience that I connect with. Mm-hmm. That's all I need. That's all I'm trying to do. If I annoy you, I always say this. One of the main things I say to people is change the channel, dude.
Yeah,
change the channel. No one made you watch this or follow me. Like, I don't care. Change the channel.
The funny thing is, though, they can't,
because it's not really about.
They got to still watch it.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
At the end of the day, I think what you guys are kind of hinting at with the posed question, which has been answered really well in terms of, like, how does an introvert, become, a personality or someone of personal interest to people? To both of your great points, that's accomplished by being who you are, because you are going to attract who you are, and you're not going to be for everybody else. And I think that's difficult sometimes for people to settle in on and say, how do you deal with that kind of rejection, right? How do you deal with, like, people not liking you or not appreciating what you feel that you're doing? And whether you're a personality that's energetic and bubbly, or whether you're a personality that's more quiet, reserved, and stoic, you are for somebody, and there's somebody for you, and you can build your tribe that wants to enjoy who you are in your content. And on the flip side, you're going to also attract a tribe of people that don't like the way you are and can't stop but watch, because they're just eager to see that like, for instance, I'm just going to say this, but like the tribe that might be against, like, let's say a personality like Chag would be a personality tribe of individuals who are, like, extremely extroverted, and, like, he's not that interesting. He's not, like, very energetic. Like, how do people even care what he does or says? Like, he's almost monotone, right? And they'll come up with all these things and say all these ways of how if I had what he had, how I would do it.
Yeah.
And I think what's fascinating about those individuals, it's like, well, then go do it. Just like anybody else who has, you have as much right as they had to do it. They just chose to actually do it and be themselves and create an audience that enjoys in watching them in their adventures and who they are because they're authentic and they're genuine.
All right, folks, we got a new discount code for you for a product you can try if you want to. It's Black Flag's Revenge. It's kind of like Mountain Ops Ignite. I love Ignite. I love the pink lemonade. If you use the code Gritty over at Mountain Ops, you'll save. If you use the code Gritty over at Black Flag, you'll save. I like the Black Flag Pink Plunder. It's a little bit of a intense energy, what do you call it? Energy drink? Energy,
guess it'd be a pick-me-up?
Workout kind of pick-me-up drink. For all you like
addiction-related folks?
Yeah, for those that are that don't feel much from caffeine, you should try the Revenge. It's got a little kick to it. We love both partners, both companies. Work with both of them. We're going to have some drinks coming from Stealthy Nutrition soon. So we'll have that too, but like them all. Try it out. If you need a little pick-me-up, check out the new Black Flag Revenge. I like that Peak Plunder. They have like Sunrise something. I don't remember
the names of it.
But use the code Gritty over there. Go to
Black Flag. So it's BLKFLG.com.
Check that out. Use the code Gritty and let us know what you think. Yeah. That was a really, I think, insightful thing to say. It's the same exact thing I believe when you said, more people might follow Cam Hanes than me and more people follow me than you and so on. But we have our respective audiences and some of it overlaps. And some of it is time, and there's the story's not finished being told. So where you shake out in terms of, Chag, the story, 10 years, 30 years from now, it's still a long way down the road. But having the understanding, the wherewithal to say, it's okay where I'm at right now. Because I think a lot of people quit because they're not where they want to be or as big as they want to be. And I think I heard a show the other day, they were talking about statistics for podcasts. Something like 99% of podcasters never get past 21 episodes.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But out of those episodes that break 21, those podcasts that break 21, it's like is all the major shows that are out there. And so, you just got to realize that's, if you can just break 21 podcasts, all of a sudden you're in a whole new category ball game. Now, if you want to be a content creator, which I want to ask you a couple questions on that. This conversation is around creating content. I did a personality test some years ago, and it said the 4 things that I should do based on my personality type, like 4 things that are really up my alley. The number 1 thing it said based on my personality type is content creation, which was kind of a surprise. I was like, oh. Number 2 was something in the outdoors, like a park ranger. I was like, okay.
Weirdly.
Yeah.
I could see that.
And then,
as a park ranger, Brian Call out there with his flat hat, top, ranger hat, and he's like, "How do you guys like that waterfall?
Yeah,
pretty beautiful, huh? She's a beaut, ain't she?"
Yeah. And number 3 was being a teacher,
okay,
of some kind.
You're good at that.
Being a teacher,
yeah.
And
what was the 4th thing?
I just forgot. But basically, what I realized was, I'm doing all of that now. Right. I create content. I do try to teach people. I spend my time, in the outdoors. It was kind of interesting that that's not what I started with early in my life. I graduated from BYU. I had a degree in IT and accounting, and I worked for big 5 accounting firms. And I owned construction companies, and I did real estate and construction. And, I did all these things.
Were you fulfilled or?
No, they were just ways to make money, and I'm always like hungry to learn. Like one thing that I don't care what it is. In fact, I want to learn stuff.
You crave knowledge.
Trying. Yep. So for me, it was like, it was okay doing these things that didn't necessarily fulfill me because but there was the pursuit of something new that I could learn. And everything I learned empowered me down the road. I always say that 40-year-old Brian succeeded with Gritty where 30-year-old Brian would have failed, because I knew a lot more at 40 than I did at 30 and at 20, 25, so that I was better at the sponsorship game. I was better at monetizing the content creation. I was probably better at creating content than I would have been if I was trying to do it when I was 25. So I have mad respect for you being 29 and being at this stage, because I didn't even start doing what you're doing until I was 39.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even start till a decade into your future.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that. And yeah, there's a big difference too in age. Like, I noticed starting out, no one took me serious as like a business owner. Like Bryce, you know, he took a leap of faith on me, but like, I know in the back of his mind, he's like, this is just like a young dude, you know.
He trusted
like,
good judgment.
What does he know? You know,
is what he did.
But like, but rightfully so. Like, yeah, no, it's tough as a youngster, but then being 40, you know, they're gonna look at you a little bit different. They're like,
yeah,
this is a grown adult. Like, he knows what he's doing. We can trust him. But as a kid, you kind of do have that against you. But then on the flip side, you've got a little bit more time on your hands.
Yeah,
you got freedom, and that's one thing I always. When people ask me, how do you get going or something, what's your best advice for a young guy getting in the space and this is my dad's advice. He always told me this. And so props to him he's like, don't get your hands full with obligations. Don't get a girl pregnant too early. Mm-hmm. Don't get, married and start a family too early, because then you're going to have to go to a 9 to 5 and work 50 hours a week and to take care of them. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't just go out on 2-week shed hunts or hunts and make content and make no money once you go down that route. So, as a young guy, you do have that time on your hands, and if you can manage it correctly, you can set yourself up to where now I'm living this life where I can make a full-time income off of it.
Yeah, you're able to kind of pursue. You sacrificed, though. You sacrificed a lot of things that people wanted earlier.
Yeah.
You've delayed that gratification.
Yeah.
Down the road a little bit.
Yeah.
And that is what do they say? The biggest predictor of success is your ability to delay gratification. One of the biggest predictors of future success. And there's a lot of people who are not able to do that.
Don't get into debt and have that lingering over your head, because when you don't have a paycheck coming in the next week and you're in debt, that's not good.
Well, that's what helped me when I started Gritty. Was I had no debt and I had 6 months of expenses like covered in savings, and then I also had, I had more than that. I had a lot of money in the bank, so it was like, all right, let's do this thing. The opportunity sort of just, I didn't set out for it. Mm-hmm. It just sort of blossomed out of a side hustle that was kind of fun to play with. And in fact, Jordan was the one that called me up and he said, well, what would it take to make you make Gritty Bowman a full-time job and for you to quit where you're working? And I was like, well, I like my job. I get paid a lot to do like hardly anything.
Yes.
And
that's the dream.
I remember this call so well.
And now I'd have to actually work if I quit.
It's like I'm at my hours and my, the autonomy I have in the business I'm working for offers me a great deal. I make good money and I have a lot of freedom. So the idea of almost inversely changing that, taking less money and having less time or freedom because I have to work more to build all this thing is like,
It was a decision to be made.
Big
I kicked it around, but at the end of the day, being Gritty would allow me to have full autonomy. I could come and go from work as I pleased, but I couldn't just leave for 3 weeks. I could stay at home the whole week, but I still was tethered to an emergency phone call. I still needed to stay in service.
Yeah.
I still had obligations to do that weren't fulfilling, other than to just do a good job for an employer that took care of me and I took care of them. But it wasn't like I was making a meaningful imprint on the world, which I felt compelled to do and wasn't doing. So for me, it was a pretty easy decision to say, yeah, I can always go back too. Yeah, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go down this road. And Jordan and Casey helped. They were the first major partner that I had that helped me pay the bills in that transition period. A couple others in the industry as well. And I was like, well, if you guys do this and this guy and that partner does that, then yeah, I can quit and I can make it, and it'll be fine. And then if I don't like it a year or two from now or 4 years, I'll just go back, do what I was doing. But the first month of it, I was thinking I could never go back. I could never work for someone else. And even today, I mean,
It's not an option.
I don't do
become a criminal before I go back.
Yeah, I don't like
Totally.
I don't like
that's how I feel.
I don't even
it's like what in life would you be willing, like at what point would you be in your life cycle that you would be willing to work for someone, right? You ask yourself that question. Joking aside, you say like, dude, I'd rather be a criminal. I'd rather be in jail than have someone tell me what to do. And I think what's so fascinating about the life of an individual that wants to own their own journey and create their own way is the inherent risks and the desires and passions that reside inside them. But I think some of the chaotic things that enter that same experience for every individual is you can be so passionate about something, so driven and have so much desire for it. But if it isn't bound in some form of structure and you have some meaningful purpose behind your passion and why you're doing it, which you two have explained very well what those were and have been in both of your careers, it's hard to keep going when it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. I talk all the time with individuals about the word distraction. And when you break that word down into 3 different ways, is there's so many things in life that are and can be a distraction, because distraction will take you away, right, from the thing that you want most going forward. And when you break that word down into the opposite of distraction is traction. And traction only comes in and through the individuals that take action in their life to create the kind of traction that moves them towards their goals and ambitions. And I always tell people, Eric we always talk about Jordanvation. Right? Jordan's like, Jordan can motivate anyone to run through a wall. And I for a long time in my life, I've recognized through my own personal journey as well, just like the two of you, I've learned that I do have a gift where I can inspire. When people leave me, they may not remember a lot of what I said, but they remember how they felt when they're with me. I'm grateful for that gift. It's a gift that I try to have so much respect for what God has inherently blessed me with. And so I take that seriously. And so now what I've actually started to tell people is like, listen, I'm going to motivate you. Okay. But motivation only lasts for so long. When you leave me, you'll remember how you felt, but I'm no longer with you. You will have to be self-motivated, but motivation can only carry you so far. You have to be disciplined. And you two have talked about this in the most, adjacent ways, but coincidentally in harmony, what you both have essentially said is in order to achieve what you both wanted in your careers and where you guys have both achieved today, even respectfully how old you are and how long you've been doing it, how long you've been doing it, you both have been disciplined. Fact. I mean, your physique is a measure of your discipline. Your dieting is a measure of both of your discipline. You both are very fit, very conscious about health and wellness. You guys are very conscious about goals. You're both very competitive, and all these things aside, when nobody's there and the two of you have done this in your careers, you've been alone and with your own thoughts and yourself, which are always the hardest conversations you have to have. You will beat yourself up and talk yourself out of everything. It doesn't even matter about peer review or who's around you. You will eliminate everyone around and you will be with your own voice in your own head. And that voice can be very toxic. Unfortunately, it's the hardest person we have to overcome is ourselves. It's not anybody else. But you guys have been so good at being disciplined and overcoming obstacles that have been placed in your paths. And obviously, I think what you said earlier, Brian, that kind of coincides well with Chag and where he's at in kind of your life cycle and career is like, because how old are you now?
29. Yeah,
so 29. So he's almost into the dirty 30s, right? And I still remember like this is the mindset mentality that has shifted in generationally, right? Brian's generation, even the generation prior to you, was we're going to grind and build our lives to our 60s and then we're going to retire.
Yeah,
and that's been the mindset mentality in America for a very long time. Generationally speaking, now our generation, your generation, you are setting up yourself. You have spent a decade, your 20s, building what will now set up your 30s. And you will now spend the rest of those 30s building what will set up a beautiful 40s. And so, quote, retirement or having what you want, it's not about retiring. It's about what you two are talking about, which is being liberated.
I always say to people, I'm rich in lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not rich.
You're wealthy. You're wealthy in lifestyle, not rich in things or.
But on the path I'm on, I'm going to do just fine.
Yeah.
You know, I'll have plenty of wealth, but it's been a really slow process, and it still has yet to come. But I would say that when you pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient, when you pursue what's meaningful to you, all the other things will fall into place. And then the only thing that I think that gets in the way of, well, there's a few things, but I think ego and pride are the one thing that is, if someone can avoid that and drugs,
they have a real shot.
I think you have a real shot if you can put what's meaningful to you ahead of everything else.
Yeah. Well, and what I like about that kind of saying that, Brian, is also like it goes right into your recent film and your life experience, because what a success and feat, a goal of yours that it was to accomplish what many can't. Some men can, some men can't.
They can't even do it without a camera.
Oh yeah,
with a camera and make a movie.
Have as many days or opportunities. It's not easy, and this is I think sometimes the thing that we struggle with in our space is people's idea of like what you said earlier, where you've accomplished, you've got a really nice mature buck, right? Beautiful velvet buck, and so you'll always have that. That's yours forever. That experience, him, you, that's all yours forever. And the memory, like you said, and the memento that you have now that's been taxidermied is a reminder of that experience. And it's very well correlated to what we're talking about here in terms of your journey through that experience, chasing 200, getting that in your own home state, in your own playground per se, and doing it all on your own. There was no one else in that situation. That situation was all on you. The mistakes made, the wins or the losses, what you would gain or lose was all dependent completely and solely on you. And I talk about this in our pirate mentality and here at Black Flag, which is I'm trying to help instill this with people. It's just like, listen, in life, you're going to have to learn how to burn ships, but never burn bridges. Okay, it's not an essential part of life. You should always keep your bridges and connected to the right people in your life, the meaningful relationships that actually care about you, want to take care of you. There's ships in life that are at sea with you that are not essential to be there and do not need to be part of what you're doing. But at the end of the day, no matter what happens in life, there are going to be moments in life. And you talked about this earlier, Brian, where you're not going to have any one. And I think the three of us, we've talked about this before. We've all been at a point in our life where we had no one. Whether that was by nature of how you are, or who you've been, or situation, things that have happened to you, we've all gone to a place where it's all us, and there's no one coming. And that's not a dark thing to say or to think about. It's in those moments, though, when it's all on you, that you have to rise to the challenge and overcome the obstacles and put aside any ego or any means by which could distract you from becoming and doing and accomplishing what you want most. And so that's why I always tell people when I'm trying to motivate them and inspire them is to say, just so you know, nobody's coming.
Yeah.
And I don't say that to say like, oh, well, that's sad. I'm like, no, I'm just going to let you know. I've been in situations in my life where I needed my friends. I think that's the friends I even have now, even this guy. And it's not that they knew, it's the fact that it's not their job and responsibility, but no one was there but a few. But I don't hold that against everyone because it was my responsibility to become and do what I needed to do. And I was being molded and being taught something and a life lesson that I had to learn no other way.
Yeah. I really believe that the best version of you is the one that goes, yeah, there's nobody coming.
It's the greatest version.
I mean, the only guy they say that wants you to do better than himself is your dad usually. And even at that, he still has to, let you go through that experience to grow. But that's right. Like besides him, like no other guys, they might help you out here and there, give you a good pat on the butt or a phone call one day when you're low, but like you still got to pick yourself up and build your own path.
Philosophically speaking, don't we get a little Christian here?
Okay.
We've had some great talks on the mountain, by the way.
I give him crap about the church all the time.
Right.
The best thing is I'm going to share this story because this one's too funny, and then I just want to bring it home to what we were talking about. So a little weave, and we'll come back.
Okay.
me and Chag and Eric are all on a hunt in this was in Arizona for Coos deer hunt. Honestly, to be completely honest, one of my favorite hunts. The three of us are out there having the greatest of times, moving camps around, getting opportunities, and having laughs beyond measure. And we're sitting around a campfire one night as we moved camp off the top down to the lower mid mountain because we were getting blown out up on the peak. And we're sitting around the campfire talking, and him and Eric are asking me all the questions, about life and the church and religion and, beliefs. And it was so funny because Eric, Chad goes, so like in the afterlife, right? Like heaven, right? Like, do dogs get to come with you? Like, do I get to live? And I was question. Like, dude, all dogs go to heaven, bro. Like there's a show about that, of course. Like what's a heaven without the things you love, right? At the end of the day, like I believe heaven's going to be what you love most and who you love sharing it with. And then Eric's like, okay, well, if that's the case, I love Fireball. So do I get to spend forever with Fireball? Right. And then Chad goes, yeah, but which level do you get to live on? Right. What if Jordan's living on level 3 and we're on level 1? Like, how does that work? Can Eric ride Fireball up to level 3 to come say what's up?
You can visit with
There was no alcohol.
I said to you,
there's no alcohol in this discussion.
Yeah, no, dude, okay. We're sober as you can be. And I look at Chag and I go, Chag, no, I can come down and see you, but you can't come up and see me. That's not how that works. But joking aside, like I think the parallel that I want to just weave right back in real quickly is to say that, I think the analogy that we've come to, that we've experienced ourselves is a great analogy of Christ's journey, of his own father, our earthly fathers. And I'll share this experience that parallels well with what Chag just said, is like when I was going through one of the hardest times in my life, I went to my dad, and I still remember this experience, and I shared and I put it all on him. And I was like, Dad, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm going through. This is hard. This is difficult. And my dad's like, son, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like this has got to be so hard for you. I'm going to pray for you. Know that I love you and that I'm thinking of you and I want what's best for you. And I hope that you get through this. And that's not what I wanted to hear. Yeah. I wanted him to take it from me and help me through it. I'm like, I need someone to bear this burden. I need you to equally yoke with me like an ox and let's pull this together. Yeah. And he did what a father should do. And he put it back on me and said, son, I love you. I'm here. I've always been there for you. I know, this is a tough time, but you have to experience this. You have to go through this. And I think sometimes in life, like any journey, any hunt, any experience we have, that's the mentality that we have to have in order to survive, to create success in our life or to have successful endeavors, businesses, and opportunities. It comes back to being, self-reliant and willing to go through the hard things yourself.
Speaking of that 200-inch buck, what was his name?
I didn't name him.
That's a miracle. That is a Utah miracle.
Yeah. Right, literally. Yeah. You could have called him like all these different weird names.
At first I thought you called him Camp. You're like, I went to check on Camp. Oh. And then I'm watching the movie and I'm like, oh, his name's Camp. And then I was like, oh no, he meant like base camp, like camp. I was trying to figure out his name.
That's kind of a cool name for a kid though.
Like Camp would be a great
Camp.
Name.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, no, I didn't name this one, but I get why. Like I've named animals before just for reference, It's hard to say, oh, the big non-typical with the cheater. You have to name them. But this one, I didn't have the history. I found him 2 weeks before the hunt. Like it was a wild card.
On that note, then we got to wrap up and we should do this again. But this was fun. I want to ask you just your parting story here, your parting advice, I guess. Guys out there, he's got a hunt planned. What would you say is the greatest for you, like on this 200-inch buck, for example? What is the biggest piece of advice you can give someone who's trying to kill a big deer?
Apply for units that you can spend the most amount of time in. So close to home, maybe somewhere, because that's the thing. It took me 30 days of scouting on these mountains that I know very well before I found this buck. I started scouting in early July. I have a spreadsheet with each basin, each trail, and a little like box where I can put what I saw in there, what deer have potential for 2 years down the road. And I just go through and knock all of those out.
That's impressive.
And keep notes.
So the scouting
is huge. Spending somewhere you can spend a lot of time. Glassable. I like glassable country, especially early season mule deer.
Yeah.
If you can't see them, it's kind of hard to kill them.
Yeah.
So looking for things like that, that's a huge piece of the puzzle, I'd say.
Would you say that you excel in the sheets?
Sheets?
You'll have to ask.
Yeah.
You'll have to ask.
He said he's got a power. He's got an Excel
Excel in the
spreadsheet.
sheets.
You know, little
Okay.
joke, but it's
You'll
like
have
that's actually. I mean,
I would like to think I do.
yeah.
I've heard that I do.
Whether at home or abroad,
Well-
I excel in the sheets. The thing that's great.
We talked about ego earlier.
Yeah. He's a humble man. He's a humble guy. I think what's cool about that, like literally, like that's actually the first time since I've known you all these years that I've ever known that that's part of your process.
Yeah.
I've never known that you have a spreadsheet at that level of detail. I know that you spend so much time out there on all those points
That's cool.
in all those places, but your intimacy and relationship with these animals, every time you've ever sent me a picture, to Brian's point, they typically have a name or something associated. Like, dude, I found this guy and I'm watching him, and he's out there before everybody else, or with very few.
I really enjoyed my season out there on the boulder, being able to go out.
You
Kinda
some
can
of the
do
most
the
You
same
too.
thing.
What was fun about your film, The Struggle,
Mhm.
was that section where you had all these bulls you guys had named, all
Oh,
these
yeah.
things you had saw, and
It's
then
so fun.
you saw none of them.
Yeah,
And you
that's
just
a bit
get
rough.
Yeah.
That's the
So-
thing. You could scout your ass off, and like sometimes it does nothing. You
But
know,
I don't feel like it was a waste of time at the end of the day.
you still learn a ton.
I did. I learned a ton, which did help me with the hunt later in the hunt.
Yeah.
Is you still learn all the road systems and all the ways to get to different spots and glassing spots that you're like, I'm going to make a mark there because later in the season, if this doesn't pan out, I had a plan, ABC, all that kind of stuff. So, Martin, where can people find your content?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and YouTube, just under the same handle, Martin_Chag, or my full name, Martin Chagnovich. YouTube, you're catching more of the full length style videos, and Instagram, the day-to-day stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Folks, go check out the latest drop, Chasing 200. That was a great one. What other one would you recommend?
Another good one was a lot of people like that R2 story, even though I didn't
that's a good one.
even though I didn't kill the deer.
That was well told too.
It was just I had a ton of history with the buck, so I felt like it was worth sharing the
Yep,
story,
I liked
even though
it.
I didn't end up killing him. That's a popular one. Or my last season, or my late season elk hunt from 2 years ago.
Baller film.
We kind of talked about that at the beginning of
Yep.
the video or the podcast. That kind of same thing. I do the same thing with these elk. A lot of history, and so
Love
I
it.
think that'd be a good one.
Thanks, brother. Thanks
Yeah.
for coming on.
Appreciate the time.
Folks, let us know what you think in the comment section down below on the YouTube videos. We try to engage down there and answer your questions. Go check out Martin Chag's